Transparency is at stake. Accountability is at stake. Participation by relevant key stakeholders at stake. What exactly do they want to achieve?
Market women, people actually who are vulnerable, people who are widows, they are not able to make ends meet, even with their so-called single-digit inflation.
Where is the woman's bank? Where is the woman's bank? And I kill and tia.
One arm of government is controlling another arm of government.
We join the House to reject the nominee. Thank you.
1 year in opposition is not a season of silence. It is a season of scrutiny, responsibility, and resolve. In Ghana's parliament, the Minority Caucus has spent the past year doing what democracy demands, asking hard questions, defending the public interest, and holding the government of the day to account. This documentary reflects that journey, from the floor of parliament to committee rooms, from national debates to sector-by-sector oversight. This is the Minority Caucus at work.
You know, my position is a bit unique, serving as second deputy speaker in a parliament that is dominated by a majority. My role is supposed to superintend the House in such a way that I should show my uniqueness in terms of balancing the situation by way of neutrality, fairness, diligence, in such a way that I'll be able to handle the House in peace.
Right from the onset, it was clear to me what the mandate was: to cut through, to stay focused, and demonstrate resilience and become formidable against an overwhelming majority. It was quite disappointing at the polls, but I was determined that together with my colleagues, we'll make an impact, scrutinize every single government policy that comes to the House floor, remain relevant, and reassure Ghanaians that we're ready to live up to our mandate. The silence of the opposition would amount to a failed democracy. Therefore, we have never yielded to any attempt at subtly silencing us. We will not be mute. We will deliver on the mandate and ensure that government is held to account.
Leadership in opposition is about coordination, clarity, and courage. It is about setting direction while remaining anchored to facts and the Constitution. Over the past year, the leadership of the Minority Caucus has guided strategy on legislation, budget scrutiny, and national accountability.
It is not just a matter of what you are providing. It's a matter of the implementation.
Indonesia has set the example, China has set the example, and there's a lot we can do with this lithium.
You have realized that you didn't do anything concerning your policies. Nothing.
Education Minister, this is very bad, and I think you still have an opportunity on the second reading to withdraw this.
We in the minority have remained relevant, holding the government to account, pointing out inaccuracies, and consistently raising matters of public concern.
In our time, it was more of a structured business, and therefore you could plan yourself. Now it is not structured. They try to take it by surprise. But we've met up to them. They have been struggling. On the contrary, the majority have been struggling to get their numbers as compared to ours.
We are few, but we are mighty. We are 87, and these 87 have a lot of fire in their belly. The kind of cooperation that we have together, the kind of work that we are doing together, this is a very well composed minority.
I've always said that we are mighty because we do all the best of submissions on the floor, do a lot of critical thinking, and debate in a manner that if we left it to the majority, most of the things that we debate on would never be seen. And a classic case is the budget. And obviously, when it got to the stage of my respected minority leader virtually had to show to the whole world that the budget was culled from a certain previous budget. So it was a cut and paste.
Through coordinated floor strategy and committee engagement, the caucus has positioned itself as a constructive but firm opposition.
Macbeth, Act 1, Scene 7. First, as I'm his kinsman and his subject, strong both against the deed, and as his host, who should against his murderer shut the door, and not bear the knife myself. Besides, this Duncan has borne his faculties so meek, has been so clear in his great office, and his virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued against the deep damnation of his taking off, and pity like a naked newborn baby, striding the blast or heaven's cherubim, housed upon the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye. Tears shall drown the way. I have no spare to break the size of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which overleaps itself and falls on the other.
Gertrude Tokono, throughout her distinguished service as a judge and Chief Justice, had an impeccable record.
Economic policy affects every Ghanaian household, from inflation and debt to employment and growth.
The confidence levels in the economy is very low.
Yes, your accounts will look big, but in actual sense, your economy will be growing lean.
It is not the minority that is saying it. Whilst the government is in this house praising itself, investors out there are saying something different.
The local government ministry itself to make sure they expedite action on providing motorbikes to the honorable assembly members.
The issue about fiscal discipline shouldn't just be about cutting expenditure. It should be part of a planned economic transformation program.
We are clear in our minds that it's not so much the technical jargons and the fine calculations that the public is interested in. The public is interested in understanding what all of these technical things mean to their quality of life. You would recall, for example, when the government brought its initial economic policy, we were very vociferous in drawing their attention to the fact that the key foundational issues are the ones they need to attend to if they are going to make an impact in the economy. And we're beginning to notice that in some areas, they are trying to respond. Recall when the Gold Board bill was brought, we made a lot of recommendations on the risks that are ahead of them if they don't make corrections. And in instances where they refuse to listen to us, you've seen the losses that are coming up.
One of the measures to know the confidence in an economy, it is the market, how the market responds, how they patronize your investment.
Just 11%. 11% for the ministry as far as chieftaincy is concerned.
The steps his ministry is taking to avoid imminent clashes between farmers and migrant herdsmen in the Buapa North municipality.
You can't talk about clean energy without mentioning lithium.
Mr. Speaker, I, however, have my reservations.
Minority has used both the chamber and committee platforms to interrogate economic decisions and demand transparency.
Mr. Speaker, is the Ghanaian woman aware of the outcome of this affirmative action bill?
Are there ways the leadership of Parliament can cut costs?
We've been in opposition for a year, and I strongly believe that Ghanaians are really enjoying the kind of work that we are doing, as in our promotion of accountability on the floor of Parliament, through our press conferences, as well as through the work that we do in the various committees. The whole year, I think we have looked at quite a number of reports, and we have raised a lot of concerns for government to look at it and learn from past mistakes. That is very, very important. And I also feel that we have used the Public Accounts Committee to tell Ghanaians how we are utilizing the taxpayers' money. That is very, very important. Without that, many people don't get to hear what exactly we use the taxpayers' money for.
One of the things that we've introduced, and thanks to the tenure of Obi Amwa, former Member of Parliament for Priapim South, was that we introduced what we call a pre-laying sitting or procedure, which is not founded in the Constitution. Because when a subsidiary legislation is laid, the minister or the sponsoring agency or whoever is leading the rule or regulation comes to Parliament and is allowed to bow and read, the 21 sitting days kicks in. And to annul that, you need 2/3 of members of Parliament. And sometimes it comes with a lot of challenges. So what we introduced as a committee, which I inherited, was the pre-laying sitting, where we go through the regulations, make corrections, so that if any of the provisions in the regulations conflict with the Constitution, or introduce a tax or a charge on the consolidated fund, or anything within the regulation is seen as being inconsistent with the Constitution, we take time to correct it and report to the House before a report is laid.
The whole of last year and this year, we are holding government accountable for whatever they said they are going to do. We will start public hearing very soon. We are intending to visit all sites that the government had made promises starting from February, that you said you were going to finish the Agenda 11 hospitals. Have you finished them? We'll go to the site, we'll invite the people, we'll hold debates with the people, we'll check and see whether they said they're going to do with them. They said they are doing the roads. They promised that within a certain amount of time, they will do that road. We'll go and check and then report back to the people through Parliament that, look, when we went, this was done and this was not done. So for the caucus meetings and at caucus level, Assurance Committee is one of the committees that we believe that we can use to hold government to account to the people.
Today, I hear the majority of the government excited about the revenue increase in ECG's operations. They talk about the stability of power. But anybody who understands the power sector knows that it's a process. What they are enjoying now is benefits of years of work done by the previous government. We had a program called the Reliability Improvement Project. And if you go to BBNE, the BBNE substation was constructed. The Dabuase substation was constructed. The Awaso substation was constructed. The Seria substation was constructed. The Tafu BSP port switching substation was constructed. The Obuase BSP substation was constructed. These are projects that help to stabilize the system. And I'm sure some of the benefits we are seeing today is as a result of these achievements in the previous government.
If you are selling power 16 cents kilowatts per hour, and at the end of the day, if few people, about 70% of the population, are the one paying for the whole 100% production, which is not the best way to go. So we've been hammering on them to try much as possible to bring these tariffs down.
The previous government had initiated several policies, several projects that sought to deal with sanitation issues. Significant improvement have been made at the time we left government when it comes to sanitation, such as the IRICOP project, which Zoom Lion had undertaken in the previous government, and other sanitation contracts led by or spearheaded by Zoom Lion. The government at the time we left had achieved significant milestone in arresting critical sanitation issues. However, when this government took over, we realized that they have relaxed. The IRICOP operators have threatened to shut down. Issues such as open defecation. Government had rolled out several projects to arrest open defecation. The government was very relaxed in zooming in to arrest these issues. You can count the number of times we have had to sanction the minister responsible for water resources and the sanitation in the house to ask him critical questions when it comes to defecation, flooding, and the rest of them.
Minority of the 9th Parliament will never win the vote, but we can win the argument. Parliamentary oversight in the conduct of the foreign policy of our country is absolutely important, and therefore, you recall the agreement between Ghana and the United States vis-a-vis the deportation of immigrants to our country, Ghana's position on many issues such as the Israeli conflict, Venezuelan issue, and all of that. You've heard and seen the minority being very articulate on the floor and being very engaged at the Committee on Foreign Affairs. And that, I believe, over the past year has been spectacular.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak on a matter of deep national grief.
I strongly believe that there's the need for us to look at those gaps.
I don't see why somebody will pay his dues and the authority mandated not doing their work, and you put them as part of the group that you want to sanction. Why will you do that?
When exactly was the original equipment manufacturer repair completed?
Provide a timeline for establishing passport offices in the remaining 6 regions.
LTGs 1, 4, and 8.
You've been very much on top of holding the government accountable when it comes to human rights. We've made it very clear to the citizenry that the government's weaponizing state institutions. Look at bail conditions, look at the number of press conferences that we have had, the demonstrations that we had when the Chief Justice fundamental human right, the right to work was being trampled upon. So we have really held the government very accountable on fundamental human rights that have been abused, bail conditions that are outrageous.
They are being gagged in this house, not to ask questions. That is completely unfair.
I would want some assurance from Minister as to what timelines we should expect these 2 contractors back on site.
Yes.
The city could be used to support expansion of smallholders irrigation scheme.
We should take certain steps to cure that.
Can you give us some timelines the payment will be done?
And what resources have been allocated for its operationalization?
In Ghana here, our oil production is declining.
Go to big push. Well, how are you going to fund Akuko Kitingiti? They say go to big push.
The green minerals of the country should not be exploited based on the existing mining laws and policies.
I think we've been up in our game very well, very much so. If you look at the Galamsey issues currently, if not for the effort that we are putting in, I believe sincerely that this country would not have had any forest cover or any natural resource in terms of river bodies that we do have. Because the concentration of this government has been on the export of gold in its raw form from the small-scale mining activities to shore up the economy. And that is all that they intend doing. The president told us directly that there are about 4 million people engaged in Galamsey, and that is what they are using to hold on to the exchange rate that we have in our country. In the area of lithium, in our time, we were so much concerned about how we manage and govern our natural resources to the extent that we were even able to negotiate far and above the standard rates that we usually did have. Those were the days of the past. Even if you look at lithium, we were able to manage well and negotiate for royalties way over and above the 5% that we used to have at 10%, increase our freehold interest, carried interest to about 13%. At the end of the day, what did we have with the NDC? They managed to bring us back to a 5%, reduce almost all the achievements that we made in that sector. To understand that they brought us a contract in Parliament that was almost a knockdown for the company that was coming to take over.
Nowhere is a sentence mention made of the DRIP initiative.
Mr. Speaker, if you also look at the budget that was made for the foundation, GMPC Foundation, I believe that it is still inadequate.
If you look at the budget of 2025 and 2026, there's virtually nothing for science and innovation. There's nothing for technological advancement. And look, in the world that we live in now, if you don't innovate, you will perish. And so as a caucus, we continue to
push the government. We want to make more budgetary allocation in innovation, science and technology. And of course, we've also pushed them to do better, especially when it comes to the fight against galamsey, buying from these illegal mining operators. And as a result of that, the government seems to be getting a lot of credit for the stability of the city.
He had gone to the market. I think he should have taken national security operatives with him.
When should the people of Ghana expect our president to be back in Ghana?
For 8 years when we were in office, we did recruitment from the Ghana Armed Forces, the police, immigration, fire service, and all the security agencies. Did you ever hear stampede? Did you ever hear people, crowded at one place and some sadly passing as a result of incompetence, tactical and operational plans? No. But it's just in 1 year. Their very first recruitment, people had to die. Very unfortunate. But you see, we, the mighty minority led by Honorable Afenyo-Markin, we have a very responsible posture. So even though they failed in their recruitment exercise, we supported them to be able to review, and we helped them to structure it right. And then the process recommenced. And that is how come they were able to get it right, and so far we are monitoring.
We've said many times on the floor, and we've said many times at committee levels, that we will not politicize issues of security. When we first started this parliament, the ranking member for Defense and Interior, Ntim Fodjo, myself, we had a press conference, and then Ntim Fodjo was taken on because he had alerted government to avert their mind to some things which were going on at the airport which had to do with drugs. I think that although they came out as macho trying to intimidate Ntim Fodjo, I think that they also listened to whatever was in that press conference. And so they realized that although we may be in the minority without, the so-called supermajority, as they say, we still had our eyes open and our ears also on the ground, and that we were watching them.
We have convened this press conference to demand consistency, accountability, and legislative integrity from a government that spoke with moral certainty in opposition. Of particular concern is the inclusion of redefined concepts of sex, sexuality, sexual orientation, sexual rights, and gender identity, which fundamentally depart from Ghana's cultural, religious, biological, and moral foundations.
In my submission, I said when they were going for the health on this, we are ready to join them.
To be mute in the face of excesses and injustice is to collapse democracy itself. Silence in parliament is not neutrality. Silence is an abdication. Silence is the shutdown of democratic accountability.
The president was quick to tell us that he was going to cure the problem of unemployment. So then it was our hope that this 24-hour economy with a 3-shift to 1-job system will cure it. Unfortunately, that is not the case.
We still have nurses that were assured to be paid, but have worked for 7 months, 11 months, but only 1 month were paid.
I have been looking at this budget closely, and I'm finding it difficult to see where in this budget that there is a single institution with an increment in their budgetary allocation.
The point and the issue here is the principle. The point and the issue here is the inconsistency.
Mr. Speaker, next on the agenda is the removal of the EC. An efficient tax system is not the one with the highest incidence, but the one with the most effective systems.
You arrive at a total figure of 760,000. So clearly, there's a shortfall.
This budget lacks credibility.
Speaker, I have already described this budget as growthless and jobless.
The congested nature of the market and lack of modern firefighting infrastructure worsen the situation.
This budget, Mr. Speaker, while claiming a gender-responsive mantle, reveals a pattern of a modest increment that falls short of transformation action.
There is no way in this budget that they have initiated any new policies.
There was a period last year when the Bank of Ghana
dismissed some 100 young people who were employees. The Minority Caucus saw that it was unjust and raised the issue through a press conference. As the deputy ranking of the Gender Committee, I was privileged to address the press and raise the minorities' concerns. Thankfully, the government reversed their decision and the young people who were dismissed had their dismissal reversed.
Yeah, so if today you see a very strong economic position of government in terms of all the revenue initiatives that the government brought, it is a result of the concrete critique and additions that we had to make at the finance committee level to improve policy direction of government. If you take even the laws, the passage of certain legislations like the Bank of Ghana Act amongst others, a lot of revisions have happened in those acts as a result of the contribution and commentary we ran on the floor of the House. So I think the Minority Caucus have been very strong in holding government accountable and to espouse transparency in the way things are done.
The expertise to deal with challenges posed by cybersecurity.
Through the efforts of the minority on the committee, government has listened to us, and so government has now come out with a policy to restrict exportation of raw rubber, which is good for us. So it's going to help actors in the industry to be able to get enough raw material to process. We in the minority, in the trade committee, doing all we can, be able to support government, to be able to focus the attention on trying to help those in the SMEs grow.
Mr. Speaker, the biggest challenge for the sports sector is funding.
And today, as we speak, the amount of money that has been released to the NEIP to be able to, as it were, conduct or make sure that the Jumeirah project sees the light of day. Not up to 1/3 of that money has been released. And if you want to do a simple calculation as to how much each person is going to get, it is woefully inadequate.
Practical step is he making to ensure that some releases of funds will be made to the contractor?
With the blueprint that was set out by the NPP government with the establishment of SIGA, we are going by the dictates of the very provisions of that act, and it has helped us in looking at the structural arrangement of the various state-owned enterprises, and it gives us even the framework for us to be able to measure the various state-owned enterprises.
Mr. Speaker, at the outset, I think it is important to reiterate the point that this side of the House is not against the construction of an Accra-Kumasi expressway.
You could see that there has been a complete departure from where the NPP government, the policies that the NPP government initiated. This government came, and if you look at investment is sending it to the rail sector, you can see that the government is not even interested when it comes to our railway development in this country.
There is a constituency called Kede, where we also have roads to be constructed.
When will the construction of phase 2 of the following Nkoko Township roads commence?
Minister for Roads and Highways, whether the ministry has any plans to construct some footbridges on the Accra-Kumasi Highway in the Suhum constituency.
As we reflect on the history, significance, and evolution of Ghana's National Farmers' Day.
If you remember, the government was making a lot of noise that we have a lot of food production. In fact, they were glad of food, maize, cassava, rice, tomato, onion, and things like that. But in natural fact, the production we're seeing on the market was not most of them were not from our farmers. They were as a result of excessive importation. Last year, the import bill, the food import bill alone, was in excess of 3 billion. I'm not saying that the farmers didn't do well. They did well. The weather was good. We had some production, but the bulk of the food we were seeing on the market was as a result of food importation. The government allocated only 2.9 billion to the agricultural sector, such an important sector, but only 2.9. And it will surprise you that at the end of the third quarter of last year, only 16% of this money had been released. They promised to buy fertilizer, they didn't buy any. They promised to buy certified seeds, they couldn't buy any. They promised to buy insecticides for farmers, they didn't buy any. They had to rely on what the previous government left behind.
Parliamentary work is not like litigation in our courtroom. It's not about who wins, it's about who loses. It's more of consensus building, highlighting situations to rally people around. If for nothing, some of the milestones we've chalked, Ghanaians have seen from what we have done in Parliament. When you look at the lithium agreement, for instance, we highlighted how deficient it was in terms of what was being given Ghana. It was highly, highly disproportionate.
After the primaries, we need each other to build or stand up to the government at any point in time. So it's important that we hold ourselves in check, we discipline ourselves, and ensure that we always remember that if you are doing anything or engaging in anything that will cause us in the future, you should know that it will not help.
Should stay united, and I think that if we do, the sky will be the limit.
I just want to encourage my colleagues that they have done a very good work. We are very happy the kind of debate they put in. Anytime we are debating the budget, we are debating the State of the Nation address, we are debating motions on the floor of Parliament, they show quality.
I believe that beyond 31st January 2026, the MPP has to prevail. The MPP must prevail.
I'm very inspired by the J.H. Mensah-led minority in the second parliament of our country. J.H. Mensah in 1997 led a minority of 61, and the country heard them loud and clear. And that is the same posture I have adopted from day one, that we would not allow our numbers to deter us, but the substance we bring on board is what would inspire us to deliver on our mandate. So, my dear colleagues, let's remain focused. Let's remain united. We've done it in year one. Let's carry the same energy into year two as Parliament resumes. The new flag bearer that will be elected, we all rally behind that flag bearer, work with him, and deliver for the party. The people out there, our party foot soldiers, look up to us as the only formidable group within the party to help deliver victory. If we fail in that, we would have failed a nation. Let's work together and be firm, determined, and deliver for the people of Ghana. Thank you very much.
We shall wait to save Ghana. We shall wait.